Welcome back, everyone, to Redux and Friends Event Horizon. We are hot off the event that we had just a couple weeks ago, Redux and Friends Rapid Fire 2023, which made over $5,000 for charity for Planned Parenthood, which is absolutely amazing still, and I am still eternally grateful for all of the work that everyone put in. Today on Event Horizon, we have a very special showcase by Mini352, who has been diligently working on a LOTAD. You can do the !LOTAD command if you're unsure about what that is. I'm sure Mini will go into it himself. Of Wind Waker 15 keys, which is... I have a lot to learn about it as well, so I will just turn it over to him and get started.
All right. Hey, I'm Mini352, and yes, this is 15 keys LOTAD. As always, Wind Waker has a 5-minute intro, so let's just get going in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, just gotta make sure it's synced on my end. Just give me 1 second. Of course, my video player has decided to not work. Okay, it's fine, I got the intro. So this is a 15 keys LOTAD, and a LOTAD stands for Low Optimization Tool Assisted Demonstration. So first things first, what the hell is a LOTAD? So most of you are probably familiar with the idea of a TAS, which is a tool assisted speedrun, where you use an emulator and tools like savestates and frame advance to make basically a perfect run of some category. A LOTAD is very similar in that the tools used are the same, but the goal is different. So in a task, your goal is just to make the run as fast as you can possibly go. But in a LOTAD, I'm not so much concerned about going fast as I am just showing off something cool, which is what I hope to show with this 15 keys LOTAD. And I will explain 15 keys in a second. Just need to get the video to work on my end. 1 second. Tech is being tech. Okay, I should be good now. Okay, so 15 keys. So, as always in Zelda games, Wind Waker has these things called small keys in dungeons. And in the game, there is a counter when you go into a dungeon that tells you how many keys you have. And this counter has 2 digits on it, which is strange considering that when you play the game casually, you would only ever have at most 1 small key, but they still give you a double-digit counter. So of course we have to try to make that counter as high as we possibly can. So the goal of this is just to make that counter show the number 15. So let's just think about how many keys are even in the game. So the first dungeon, Drangru's Cavern, has 4 keys, and then Forbidden Woods has 1 key, Tower of the Gods has 2, so that's 7 total. Earth Temple has 3 keys, that's 10 total, and Wind Temple has 2 keys, so there's a total of 12 keys in the whole game. Yet we are somehow going to achieve 15 keys. So, yeah. So just to be clear, this means having 15 keys at once in a single dungeon, not collecting 15 throughout the run. We need to have 15 at the same time in one place. And obviously we're going to have to do a lot of interesting things to make that happen. Now, you may be familiar with a category that has existed for a long time called 14 keys, and that has been known to be possible for, again, a very long time. Lots of people have done it. Well, not lots, but multiple people have done it. And you might think, well, getting 1 more key shouldn't be too difficult. It turns out to be very difficult, and that is why this is not a RTA run, but a LOTAD, because it is just too difficult to do as a human. So I've made this to show it off. Alright, and at the beginning, I'm not going to explain too much about our goals and what I'm doing. I'm just going to kind of let this play, and we'll see what happens as it goes on, because I'm going to have a lot of time to explain stuff later. But for now, we're just gonna watch and see where it goes. Also, I have a key counter on screen that you've probably noticed, which I can change, so I will be updating that throughout. We are currently at 0.
If I might ask, since we seem to be waiting for stuff, what spawned the advent of wanting to add another key to the counter? Was there something new that was found, or?
Yeah, there was a new discovery basically that made it possible, and for a long time, myself and EJ, who was another runner, we have tried to make it possible to do RTA. We've had multiple goes of trying to do it, and we've just never been able to do it. So I thought, I'm gonna actually do it, but as a LOTAD. I will explain what the new thing is as we get to it. Alright, so if you know about Wind Waker, the most important glitch is something called a super swim. So here you can see Link is turning back and forth in the water every single frame, and this causes him to build up a lot of negative speed. Now normally, doing a manual super swim like this takes a lot longer when you're a human. However, this is not a human. This is just me putting inputs frame by frame, so I can go really fast. So yeah, jump into the water and 20 seconds later, we're off. So this is basically the backbone of Wind Waker TAS, is that you can just super swim so fast. You don't have to do any trick, you literally just, if you're in water, you can do a super swim. So we just went to a submarine, and this submarine has some moblins, and they just have captured me and thrown me in jail, which is a bit weird. So I don't have a sword right now, which doesn't seem super important. But the thing with those moblins that are holding lanterns, is that normally the only time you would ever encounter those types of moblins without having a sword is in Forsaken Fortress 1. So the game just says, if Link doesn't have a sword, and he encounters one of those moblins, then throw him in jail. So I am now in Forsaken Fortress 1, and I essentially just skipped the whole of the outset portion of the game. So now we're just gonna go through and beat Forsaken Fortress 1. Alright, and I will say, this is also the first time I've ever tried tassing or low-tadding or something. So the quality should increase as we go through. Right now I'm still getting my bearings on how to use the TAS input and stuff, so my movement is not super optimal right now. Now you saw me jump down to that area for seemingly no reason. There's actually an invisible trigger down by those stairs, which will cause the sword to appear at the top. If I don't jump down there, then there will not be a sword. Which I found out the hard way, because I tasked this whole thing the first time without going down there and realized there was no sword for me to pick up. So yeah, we don't really have any items to do anything cool in FF1. We're just basically going through as intended, because we just started the game. Doing sidelink like this is infamous for being really hard to task optimally, so mine is very much not optimal. I'm just spamming the stick.
Now, as a question I actually had is that it seems that a lot of this is pretty par for the course for Wind Waker runs so far. And that being the case, how did it feel to be able to task yourself one of the most sort of iconic versions of the Wind Waker speedrun?
It was pretty cool. I don't know. It was cool to be able to go through and actually do the task stuff that I can't do myself. And yeah, even though this is mostly just normal gameplay, and this was probably slower than I could do RTA because again this is my first time getting into the low tadding. But yeah, it was cool just learning how to do it. It is now a new skill that I have. Now we got a cutscene. This game has a lot of cutscenes. So yeah, I guess it probably just seems natural that we beat Forsaken Fortress 1. But there is actually a very specific reason we have to do this, which I'll go into later. Because it's not completely obvious. If you know like what beating FF1 does, what it gets you, it's not completely obvious why we would need to do it in this route, if you know the route. But this is a thing we do in most runs, so it just seems normal right now. So a question in the chat, how many keys are in the game? There are 12 keys in the game. We will collect 15 of them.
Did you name yourself 15 Keys?
It did. That was... The very first thing I tasked was typing in the file name 15 keys, and because I was so new to like doing the tasking, it took me like the same amount of time to task typing 15 keys as it took me to task like an entire super swim by the end. Like it took me literally like an hour to type 15 keys. So yeah, so far we have just started the game, gone straight to Forsaken Fortress, gotten a sword, and beaten FF1. And you can see we now have the King of Red Lions. So this guy doesn't actually exist in the game until you beat Forsaken Fortress 1. Alright, and we are straight back into the water. Alright, so we are going somewhere else this time. Somewhere maybe a bit unexpected. Alright, we going to Forest Haven? Maybe. Nope, we're going to another submarine. This submarine is not to do another long warp or anything. There is just an item in this submarine that I would like to have. Gotta just kill these enemies first. Fighting enemies was like probably my least favorite thing to task. It just felt so unnatural. It's very like fast-paced. I found it hard going through frame by frame to kill enemies. But we got it. And we got an empty bottle. That is what I wanted. Alright, and I just did a save warp. And interestingly, that save warp will put me back to Windfall. Which is probably not where you might expect, but here we are. So in this game, in the early game, the game has like very specific places where you should respawn if you save warp or death warp. And after beating FF1, that is set to Windfall. So that is why I was in Windfall. And actually the event that... We call them your save warp flags, and the event that fixes your save warp flags, and what that means is the thing which makes it that after that point, you will... If you save warp, you'll end up back where you expect. That is entering King of Red Lions. So after you enter King of Red Lions, if you do a save warp, you'll be at the same place you save warped, instead of at like Windfall. And I just did a super swim, and I voided out, and I respawned inside King of Red Lions. So that means that now, if I do a save warp or a death warp, I will respawn, you know, where you would expect me to respawn. And then I just swam to Dragon Roost. Alright, so things I've achieved at this point. I have gotten a sword, spawned in King of Red Lions, gotten an empty bottle, and fixed my save warp flags. And now I have the Wind Waker as well. And the Wind Waker lets us do a very interesting glitch in the game called storage, which is one of the most important glitches in the game. It lets us do a whole lot, and we're going to be using it a lot throughout the run. And it is pretty much the thing which allows us to get most of the keys. We'll be seeing our first application pretty much immediately. Alright, so I'm going to run over to this boulder, equip the Wind Waker, and I'm going to do what's called a Wind Waker dive, where you see Link fall to the ground, and then I cancel the Wind Waker frame perfectly, and that gives me storage. So I now have the glitch called storage, which lets you store things, like basically events in the game. And so we're going to see our first one here. That is, I'm going to store opening a chest. So on this island here, Crescent Moon, there is a chest, and if I store it, the game goes very dark. So the reason the game is really dark right now is that that type of chest has an animation where like everything goes dark and zooms in on the chest. But because I stored it, it cancelled that, and the darkness was just applied completely. But once I leave that quadrant, it goes back to normal. But the thing that we actually want is that it also messes with my collision. It lets me walk up walls like this. So the reason I wanted chest storage was to be able to walk up walls, and specifically walk up this wall here. Because this is going to let me enter the inside of Dragon Roost Island from the upper entrance instead of the lower one. And I want to do that to skip the delivery bag, because normally when you enter you have this long cutscene of getting the delivery bag. But I can just enter from above and skip all of that. And the reason I wanted that empty bottle was so I can water this bombflower. You saw I also scooped up some water when I reached Dragon Roost. So that bottle plus the chest storage basically just let me enter Dragon Roost a lot faster, rather than doing the whole, you know, delivery bag, talk to Kamali, everything. And we are now ready to enter the first dungeon in the game, which is Dragon Roost. And I will just say right now, this is the dungeon that we will be collecting our keys in. So we're going to have 15 keys in one dungeon at the same time, and it's going to be Dragon Roost for a very specific reason, which I'll talk about later. For now, we'll just do some parkour to enter. Alright, we're in the first dungeon. And, oh yeah, when I tasked this, I forgot that I had a sword. So I used the pot to kill these guys when I could have just used my sword. Alright, here's the first chest, and this chest has a small key in it. So, we're finally making a start. Got our first key. And we lost our first key. Rip. Alright, and I just went back through that door, which seemed a bit odd. So I actually needed to get rid of the lock on that door so that I can do this. I can throw a stick through the door and bring it into the next room. And then I just got storage, and there's a little cutscene in this room, and I just stored that cutscene. So I wanted to bring this stick with me. Oh, also, this corner is a little weird. You can run onto that rock. That was without chest storage or anything. It's just a weird collision. So I'm basically bringing this stick all the way through the dungeon with me, so that I can come to this room early. And it's just a bit faster to do that, rather than go around the dungeon normally. And that takes us to the second key. We still only have one key though. Alright, and another locked door. And there goes our key. So we're back to 0 keys. We've already wasted 2 of our keys. This is not a great start. But things will make sense. Alright, so we're just making our way through the dungeon right now. Alright, do a little jump slash here, save climbing across. And then in this next room, this is the rat room, there is another key in here. But we're not going to be just picking up this key and immediately spending it like we did with the first 2. We're going to do something different. So we did chest storage earlier, and when you store a chest, you don't actually get the item in that chest immediately. You get the item in the chest next time you load a new area. And that's going to be important in a second. Alright, so just burning this, and there's the key chest. But before we get it, we're gonna get storage again. And we're gonna store this chest. Right, so we now have chest storage, we have that messed up collision, which lets us climb walls. But more importantly, that key, we haven't collected it yet. That key is just kind of waiting until I load a new area to be given to Link. And I just got storage again. And there's another key out here, which is in the bird's nest. And I'm going to store that key as well. Alright, so I've now stored 2 keys. And, oh no, Link, what are you doing? Link is getting beat up by a bird. He never learned how to defend himself. And rip, Link is dead. Alright, so I'm going to respawn for a Death Warp, and we're going to be back in Dragon Roost Cavern, right? Yeah, there we are. Why is the intro cutscene playing again, though? What the hell? The title screen. So this is a fun little glitch called Back in Time, and just take a look at the bottom right. You see I have 2 keys right now. So I'll update that. Okay, so what the hell just happened? So I did a glitch called Back in Time. So what I did was I died, and then on the game over screen I said yes to continue, and then I reset the console immediately after. And that made the game say, okay, well, he reset, so go back to the title screen, but also he said continue, so go back to Dragon Roost Cavern. So I was in Dragon Roost Cavern on the title screen. Now, the thing about the title screen file is that it's essentially a completely new file that has just finished watching the intro. Now, you remember that I had 2 keys stored, and I said that the keys will be given to you the next time you load a new area. Well, in that case, the next area I loaded was the title screen file, so I just transferred those 2 small keys onto the title screen file, and then I saved. So I am now playing on the title screen file, except I have 2 small keys in Dragon Roost Cavern. So this is essentially a brand new save file. Everything we've done up to this point is gone. You know, I don't have this bottle anymore, which is why I'm getting it again. This is just a completely new file, but I have 2 keys. So Back in Time lets us start a new file with 2 small keys, but you saw there were actually 4 small keys in the dungeon, but I only stored 2 of them. Why did I only store 2 of them? It's because I actually needed to spend those first 2 to access all 4 of them. So if I could access all 4 of the small keys, then I could, instead of just storing 2 of them, I could store all 4 of them and have a new file that starts with 4 keys. But what I just did was make a new file that starts with 2 keys. So if I do all of the stuff I just did again, I can go back to Dragon Roost, and because this file already has 2 keys, I can use those 2 keys to access all 4 keys to make a file that starts with 4 keys. So what I'm doing now is everything I just did before, I'm doing it again. So I can do the exact same thing, do Back in Time, to start a file with 4 small keys. But you'll see I'm doing it in a bit of a different order to before, because last time I went to FF1 first, and then I got the bottle after, but this time I got the bottle first. The reason I'm doing it in a different order is just because the first time I did it, I didn't really think about the route properly. I just missed that this was a faster way to do it. So, yeah, we're doing this in a bit of a different order, and you'll see that I took some damage on Fire Mountain. Yeah, so while I'm doing this, just some questions. So how far can that go? So for using Back in Time, to get small keys, I can only start a file with as many small keys as I can store at once. And to be able to store keys, they need to, like, actually exist in the dungeon. So I can only start a file with however many keys exist in a dungeon. And the dungeon with the most keys is Dragon Roost Cavern with 4 small keys. So that's why we're collecting keys in Dragon Roost Cavern, is because it has the most keys, which means we can use it to start a file with the most keys. And then also, why is FF1 needed? So FF1 was needed in order to spawn King of Red Lions into the map to fix our save warp flags. So when I did Back in Time, the way that works is that when I death warp and do Back in Time, it puts me on the title screen, but on the map that the death warp would have sent me to. So if I never beat Forsaken Fortress 1, and I did Back in Time, it would have just put me on Back in Time on Outset. But I can't transfer my small keys to Outset, I want to go to Dragon Roost Cavern. Which is pretty annoying that we have to do FF1 just for that little detail, but it is needed. And now we're doing FF1 again. But yeah, like I said, I took some damage earlier because I'm going to be taking a bit of a different route through FF1. A much faster route, which I just overlooked the first time. We just climb this ladder. And I'm not going to be killing that bokoblin this time. I'm going to be stealing one of these sticks. And we're going to take it somewhere else. Alright, so this is one of the other main glitches in the Wind Waker. I'd say there are 3 main glitches: super swimming, storage, and this. This is a zombie hover. So I took my stick and I took full damage, which killed me. Now when you die in this game, or when you reach 0 health, there is a bit of a window where you still have control of Link before it starts the game over. So during that window, I jump-slashed off a ledge, so then Link was airborne. And then I did a mid-air jump attack, but then the game says, wait, you're dead, I have to cancel this jump attack. So it immediately cancels it, but that means I can just do another mid-air jump attack, and another, and gain height. And the collision up there eventually ends, and I'm now done with FF1. So yeah, that was much faster than going through all of the sidling and avoiding moblins and stuff. The one downside to that is that it means I never got the sword, so I'm now swordless for the rest of my time on this file. But that's okay. Now we're doing this again. We already watched this cutscene once. We've got to watch it one more time. Alright, so by this point in the low tide, I'm getting better at doing the task stuff, and I'm starting to do a bit more optimal stuff than just rolling around like I would normally. You know, doing that hover without a setup. Gonna be doing some stuff coming up as well. I will say the main thing that I think I got better at as I went along was super swims, and just like judging how much speed I should build up for a super swim. Because a lot of these early super swims, I'm like, that was so fucking slow, I should have built up way more speed. But I get better at it as it goes along. So yeah, once again, the whole reason we need FF1 to spawn King of Red Lions to fix our save warp flags. Save warp flags are very important in this run, in both directions. They're very useful, and they're also very not useful later on. We'll see what I mean by that. Yes, small keys are dungeon specific. So if I have like one small key in one dungeon and one small key in a different dungeon, the counter would still just say 1 in each of those dungeons. So if I want to make the counter go higher, I have to do something to bring a key from one dungeon to another. And Link is dead. So yeah, at the end of that hover, I still had 0 health, and I still have 0 health now, so I game over. That's okay, small price to pay. Alright, and now we're just off we go again. Alright, so I've already got the bottle with the water, so I'm just doing that void out again to spawn in King of Red Lions. Basically, when you go too far off the map, the game just automatically voids you out, which is why I'm swimming over here. Yeah, that was really slow. I think after this next back in time is when I really start to get a better feel for super swim speeds. Like, look how slow I'm going. Alright, I'm just going to Crescent Moon again to store the chest one more time. This time I'm going to get storage on this island. Just did a little dive there, and let's do a little super swim to get to the chest faster. I don't think that was actually faster than just running up, but whatever. And we already got the Wind Waker, so we're just going straight back to DRC, Dragon Race Cavern. Gonna take a bit of a faster way up. And doing this jump is more precise than it looks, because I don't have a sword. Last time I just did a jump attack for that bomb boost, but I don't have the sword to do that anymore, so I had to do something else. Alright, so yeah, we're back here much faster this time with that hover out, and also not having to watch all the intro cutscenes again. So the only difference is this time, we already have 2 small keys. And that doesn't mean like 2 of the chests are open or something. Like the dungeon is completely as we left it, or not as we left it, it is completely like we haven't been there before, except I have 2 small keys. And also, something that I didn't really point out when it happened, but when I was back in time, I also pulled the blocks. So when I come back here, because I pulled those blocks back in time, then they're gonna already be pulled as well. Which isn't important, it's just like, I just wanted to show that it is actually the file that I was playing on back in time. Because I pulled the blocks back in time and then saved. They are now gonna be pulled in here. There you go. Alright, now this time I actually need the pods, because I am swordless this time. And you see I have 2 keys. So my goal here is to store all 4 of the keys and do back in time again. It turns out storing all 4 of the keys when the only item you have is the Wind Waker is a bit of a challenge. Someone with a very loud car outside my house. Alright, so I just stored that first one, and then use that pot to get storage again, do a little dance around the pot. And now I can just run over this boulder, because I have chest storage now. I have that messed up collision. Now, this room is interesting, so I'm going to use my chest storage to clip through that gate and steal this guy's sword. So in this room, I have to get storage to store the key in this room. And getting storage in this room with chest storage and no items is really difficult. So I'm going to bring this pot over here and let this tube hit me, and it just makes the pot kind of clip up onto that ledge. And then I can use the pot to get storage. So I use the pot to push me off the ledge. Use that stick to break the barrier. Get boosted up, because I can't climb ledges when I have chest storage. I can only... Like you see, Link is kind of walking into the walls, and he's like inside the walls. You can't climb up them. So I have to use these tubes to boost myself up. And now I'm just taking some more damage. I'm going this way this time. So I have that messed up collision. I actually don't want it. So there are 2 ways to get rid of chest storage. You can either load a new area, but I don't want to do that because it would get rid of my stored keys. So the other way is to open another chest, and that makes your collision go back to normal, so it kind of like finishes the chest animation. So I now have normal collision again, which is what I need. So we have now stored the first 2 keys. Also I used that 1 key, so I now have 1, and it's about to go down to 0. This part of the run there's a lot of getting keys and using keys. So, now we're back down to 0. Alright. I actually, just the other day... Oh, actually, never mind. I was going to say I found a faster strat in this room, but that's only if you have chest storage, which I do not, so never mind. Alright, and we're back outside. And we're basically going to store these last 2 keys the exact same way we did the first time. The only difference is I don't have a sword, which means getting storage is a bit more difficult outside. Beast, I couldn't have done that because, well, for 2 reasons. One is because, yeah, storing the key would have given me chest storage back, which is what I don't want. And also because there isn't a way to get storage in that room without chest storage, because I had to use chest storage so I could clip the pot up onto the ledge, and without doing that, there was no other way to get storage. Alright, so we're just back in this room. Doing all the same as before. Spawn some rupees. Apparently if a rat hits you, like normally they steal your rupees. If you have 0 rupees, they still make some rupees pop out, even if you started with none. I think you do, Aza. And then I need to get storage still, and I found a nice little place to get storage over here. Just on this door frame. Right, and store that key as well. Okay, so I now have all 4 keys in the dungeon stored, which means all 4 of those keys will be given to me when I next load a new area. And the same as we did before, the next area I'm going to load is going to be Dragon Roost Cavern back in time. So I died, I said yes to continue, and then reset immediately after. And now we are on a brand new file, the title screen file. Let us just watch the intro. But it has 4 small keys. And again, I'm going to pull these blocks just because I can. Okay. So, essentially everything we have just done, you can forget about. All of that we've just done was just to make a file that starts with 4 small keys. That is the most we can start with. And when we do that, we essentially start over. So, this is essentially the start of the actual run. So all of that was just to begin with 4 small keys. And yeah, I'm not going to explain it right now, but it was actually important that I stored the outdoor key last. That bird's nest key, it was important that that was the last key, and I'll talk about that later. So yeah, this is the real run. And the first thing we're doing is we're doing a backwards super swim, just because I felt like messing with different camera angles at this point. And we're going straight to Dragon Roost this time. So we want to just get the Wind Waker immediately now. So yeah, now the stuff that we're doing is more to do with like actually getting through the game. On those first 2 files, the back in time ones, I was just doing what was absolutely necessary to be able to store those keys. But now, you know, we're going to be actually playing through a lot more of the game. So yeah, and that is the last we're going to be seeing of Back in Time. It is no longer important. And just to reiterate, we cannot just continue to do Back in Time to get more and more keys. It's not like a duplication glitch. What it does is it allows you to take the keys in a dungeon and put them onto a new file so that you start with that many keys already. So I can only do it for 4 keys because that's the most there is in a single dungeon. Alright, so we got the Wind Waker, and now we are going to get the Wind Requiem. This is the song that lets us change wind direction, which is definitely not strictly necessary to do this, but it would require some pretty difficult tricks to avoid. So I'm just going to get it. And there are a number of ways to skip this cutscene, but you need to have something to do it. But I literally just started this file, so I don't have any items that let me do it. But it's not too long for cutscene. Alright, where are we going to go now? We have the whole game to explore. Surely we're going to be going somewhere new, somewhere we haven't been before. Nope, we're just going back to FF1. So remember, the things we need... Well, basically, when you go to FF1 in a run, or in this game, there are basically 3 things that we can get here. The first one is the sword. The second one is beating FF1, which just spawns in King of Red Lions, which is very important a lot of the time. And the third thing that is useful here is the Gossip Stone trigger. So, when you first get to FF1, normally, through the regular entrance, not through this, there's this Gossip Stone text which sets a bunch of flags, and importantly, it lets us get the bombs. So if we ever want to get bombs, we have to hit this trigger in FF1. So we're going to be hitting that, because bombs are pretty useful. Alright, and this time I'm not going to be doing the stick hover route, because I actually want to get the sword. Because I'm going to be on this file for longer than, like, 15 minutes. A sword is actually pretty useful. Alright, I'm going to get storage here, which is going to let me store that Gossip Stone text. So just on these stairs here, that you saw the camera kind of changed for a second, that was me storing that text. So that's going to let me get bombs later. And then do this window jump again. Alright, I'm going to be doing a chest storage route through FF1, which you'll see in a lot of runs. I didn't do it last time, on the first file, because I didn't have the Wind Waker yet. And the second one I did the hover instead, so... We are doing FF1 3 times, but each time we've taken a slightly different way. So I just stored that chest, which had a yellow rupee inside. I also grabbed a blue rupee there, and grabbing another blue rupee in here. And then just make my way up here, do some parkour. Nearly get caught by that moblin. The reason I put that barrel on and off is because it kind of makes it so the moblins won't see me, because the game has a bit of a period where after you take the barrel off, the moblins still have lowered vision. Alright, so yeah, we got that Gossip Stone text, and then the other 2 things are the sword and beating FF1 to spawn King of Red Lions. Hope you're all excited to watch that long cutscene again. Yeah, so I lied. We're not beating FF1, we just wanted the sword. We are now save warping back to Outset. So because I haven't done any of the story stuff, the game still thinks I should spawn at Outset, so this is where I'm going to continue to spawn. Alright, so what are we doing now? Now we're actually going to start doing some different stuff. So, our first objective is to get bombs. We want to get bombs, and we're basically just going to be going and getting some items. We want bombs, Tingle Tuna, Deku Leaf, etc. And to get bombs, we need to start Endless Night, which happens by going to Greatfish. But I'm going to do something different. So I just swam to Greatfish, where there's normally a cutscene. However, I got storage, and then I jumped into Beetle at the same time as the cutscene started. So what that did is it did the effects of the cutscene, which is starting the Endless Night sequence of the game. But I didn't have to watch the cutscene. So that was a cutscene skip. So we are now on Endless Night without watching the long cutscene. And then I just got storage again, so we're going to be going to Windfall to get the bombs, which are found in the pirate ship. Yeah, there is a different version of Greatfish cutscene skip, which is normally done where you drown at the same time as hitting the cutscene. But yeah, that only works when you have King of Red Lions spawned. Alright, so we're at Windfall now. This is the first time we've been to Windfall on this file, so we've got the cutscene. I'm going to be just getting some rupees. And wow, I'm getting really good luck. Also, when you get this intro cutscene at night, you see the text is still up. That's just... it doesn't like it being nighttime. Alright, and we're gonna go and free our friend Tingle. So Tingle is going to give us a very important item, the Tingle Tuner, which is a thing where you can connect your Game Boy and play as Tingle, basically. Not play as Tingle, but you have this little thing. It's like a shop. You can buy things from Tingle, and some of them will be very important. And I believe it's required to do this. It's not just convenient, there's no way to do it without. And of course we also get the Tingle chart, which we cannot open because we don't have the C chart. Alright, here's that pirate ship. Going to be doing the classic password skip. Doing roll clip. So that is when you climb up a ledge and you're partially clipped into the wall. If you do a roll on the first frame, you can clip through. That's what I just did to enter the pirate ship really fast. Now I'm just going to do some rope swinging. And in this chest we have bombs. So yeah, the Gossip Stone trigger I got in FF1, that is the thing which tells the pirate ship to switch from being the spoils bag pirate ship to being the bombs one. So that is why we had to get it, to get bombs. So if we just came here without it, then we would get the spoils bag instead. And save warp takes us back to Outset. Alright, and we have this cutscene at Outset, which is the one where, you know, casually you would come back to Outset to get Nehru's Pearl from Jaboon, who is hiding behind Outset. And that's actually what we're going to be getting next. This is normally the third pearl you get. So normally you do the first 2 dungeons and then you come here. We're going to be getting this pearl first. Now normally the way you get this pearl is you get into King of Red Lions, you shoot a bunch of bombs from your boat to break open the wall. We don't have the King of Red Lions, so we're going to have to do something different. And you saw I just used my Tingle Tuner to call Tingle. This Tingle will be coming in handy. But first we're going to do a little super swim over to this platform. This platform, you know, seems a bit random. There's a chest on here. We just need to store a chest. That's all I need right now. And this is the closest one. Alright, so a bunch of enemies, but no match for me. We're stealing their loot and getting out of here. So we now have chest storage. We got that messed up collision, can walk up walls and stuff. Gonna be swimming back to Outset. We clipped into the island, which was very handy because I actually needed to be inside to be able to clip up this wall. So now I can run up this wall and use a perfectly timed Tingle balloon, which lets me walk in the air. This is one of the things you can buy from Tingle. I can get onto this bit of collision down here. And so instead of shooting bombs from King of Red Lions, I can just throw them from here. And this location just happens to be perfect to hit all 3 of the spots you need to hit. So yeah, this is Nehru's Pearl without King of Red Lions. Alright, now I know this boat looks a lot like King of Red Lions, but I assure you he's not here. Yeah, and the reason we need this pearl is because you need all of the pearls to enter Tower of the Gods. So we're going to be entering all of the dungeons to steal their keys. So a lot of the stuff I'm going to be doing is similar to what you'd see in like an all dungeons run. We have our first pearl. Not the one you ever see getting first. We almost always get one of the other 2 first at least. Alright, and King of Red Lions is gone again. So yeah, he kind of appears for some cutscenes, but he isn't actually spawned. And now we're going to be taking a trip to our friend Beetle. The second time we're saying hi to him. So we want to buy a bait bag, which seems a bit random. Why do we need bait? There's only like one thing in the game that you get from bait, and it's a heart piece. Alright, just got storage again. Also, we blew up Beetle. Sorry. Beetle is now dead. Alright, so we are going to Forest Haven. We stored the intro cutscene. And we're doing what's called a ledge clip here. So I placed that bomb, and I climbed that ledge, and then I pressed left, so Link tried to climb into the same place where the bomb is, and the game says, no, there's a bomb here, you can't climb this way, so it pushes you away the other way, but it actually pushes you through the wall. So that is one of the ways we can clip out of bounds. Now I'm just taking some damage. This taking damage can only mean one thing. I'm gonna do a zombie hover. It can actually mean lots of things, but in this case, we're doing a zombie hover. Now, the zombie hover we saw before, Link just died at the end of it. However, if you manage to get some health, you can survive a zombie hover. And one of the things Beetle sells you with the Tingle Tuner is a red potion, which gives you 3 hearts. Alright. Now, things are gonna get weird. I'm just gonna warn you guys. So here, we're gonna do a little roll clip to get out of bounds. I'm gonna equip that bait. Okay, so I just threw some bait. Some of it landed in bounds, some of it landed out of bounds. I'm gonna do it again. Some of it landed in bounds, some of it landed out of bounds. I'm gonna do it again, but I'm going to equip over the bait. So I threw some bait, but didn't actually use my bait. So I basically duped some bait. And I threw some more bait out of bounds. Now, what is happening? I am trying to pull a bomb right now. But you see, Link is having trouble pulling a bomb. So when I threw that bait out of bounds, that bait stayed in the game's memory. And because I threw so much bait out of bounds, the game has such little memory left that it cannot handle Link pulling out a bomb. So I'm doing invisible bomb pulls, and every time I try to pull a bomb, it is eating up a tiny bit of memory. So this is a fun little glitch we like to call actor unloading. It is essentially like memory corruption. So, I'm trying to unload something. I'm not going to tell you what I'm unloading just yet. But Forest Haven has very low memory, just naturally, so it is like one of the best places to do actor unloading. Especially when we have as few items as we have right now. So, yeah, we just took up some memory using that bait, and we are now corrupting it using our bombs. And this is like permanent. When I pull a bomb, it is just there forever. Even if I go through loading zones or whatever, the only thing that will reset it is if I hard reset the console. Or the emulator, in this case. And you'll see that this is making the game get pretty laggy. And unfortunately, that does not go away. So, until we hard reset the console, the game is going to be pretty laggy. And another thing is that making this Lotad, it took a lot more video editing than I anticipated, specifically syncing audio to video. And in this laggy part in particular, I did a terrible job. So if you think the audio is not synced, you're probably right. I did not put too much effort into this. Because it's so bad. Look how laggy the game is. And when I said the game takes up a little bit of memory with each bomb pull, I meant a little bit. Like, I have to pull like 400 bombs or something right now. It does sound like the music's getting faster. I don't know if that's a thing in the game or just my bad editing. Alright. Now, it might seem weird that I zombie hovered to the top entrance just to jump down immediately, but when I void out here, which that was perfect timing, you see I respawn back at the top, which is where I want to be. Alright, so now we want to get the Deku Leaf, and to do that we have to kill all of the chews on the Deku Tree and watch that long cutscene. We're going to be doing something a little different. So you might be familiar with Deku Tree cutscene skip, but probably not in the way you're about to see. Especially not with all this lag. Alright, so I'm knocking the chews off. I'm gonna get storage on his nose. And then, normally the way you do this cutscene skip is you like push the chews out of bounds, you do a bunch of weird stuff. But I can skip all of that because it's possible to get crushed on this guy's lip. So he just ate me alive. And I'm now up here again. The leaf is spawned. Now, I'm not just going to grab the leaf. I'm going to do something a bit different. It would be too easy to just grab the leaf. I'm going to get storage and grab the leaf first. So I now have stored the leaf, so I will get it when I next load a new area. And I'm going to get crushed again. So after I reload the area, you see I have the magic meter in the top left, so I now have the leaf, but storing it means that the leaf is actually still there, so I can collect it a second time now. And that might seem pointless, but collecting the leaf a second time will actually give me something. Look at my magic meter, I now have double magic. So that is a very fast way to get double magic. Normally the way you get double magic is you have to kill a big Octo and get it from a Great Fairy. But we can just get it with storage. And it takes like 20 seconds. Alright, so we got the leaf, that's what we wanted here. And remember, we still have that actor loading. The game it's struggling, you can see how laggy it still is. It's trying its best. The actor loading had nothing to do with that. The actor loading is what I'm going to next. I promise I will get rid of the actor loading as soon as I am able to. As soon as I've done the thing I need to do with it, the actor loading will be gone. So the place I'm going to is actually Dragon Roost Cavern. Alright, so right now I'm just going to be kind of unloading stuff. It's not very interesting, I'm just going to be swimming back and forth for like a few minutes. So I mentioned 14 keys earlier. So I also mentioned that, so this game has 12 keys that I talked about before. And 14 keys is the category that has existed for a long time. So we have 12 keys in the game, and we started with 4 on this file, so that's a total of 16 keys. So in 14 keys, there are 2 keys which are a problem that we can't get. And those 2 keys are in Dragon Roost Cavern in the first room. There is a locked door that we need to open. And there's no way to get to the rest of the dungeon without opening that locked door. And the second key is a key inside a coffin in Earth Temple. I'll talk about why that's a problem later. Yeah, those are the 2 keys that are an issue for 14 keys. Now in 15 keys, which is what we're doing, we're going to be getting one of those keys, and the one that we're getting is the Earth Temple coffin key. We still need to open that locked door in DRC, there's no way we can avoid that. we have to unlock that door, so we have to spend a key there. So yeah, that's how we're going to get from 14 to 15. Just need something to talk about during this, because, yeah, just swimming back and forth. So I'm essentially just loading different islands. I'm going back and forth between Dragon Roost and Paw Print, and you can see it's taking absolutely ages to load. The game is really struggling, so I'm just, you know, going back and forth, loading places, and then drowning to reload. And it is just slowly eating away at the game's memory. You know, stuff is getting fragmented. To be honest, I don't understand this fully. I am definitely far from an expert on actual loading, but basically, game is under a lot of pressure right now. There's a lot going on. I would like to give a big shout out to Aza67, who basically held my hand through this entire actual loading process, because I would have been lost without him. Also, if you're familiar with tassing, you probably know what a desync is. Because when you make a task, you're essentially just making a string of inputs that you feed back to the game to run. And it's possible that like the emulator messes up, and that string of inputs is not actually correct. And in this actual loading section, that was a huge problem. I was just getting constant desyncs the entire time. It was really unfun. It's a miracle that I made it through this. Okay, and that is all the reloading done for now. Wow, the audio was really desynced there. Alright, and we are going to Dragon Roost Cavern. Now we still have to watch this cutscene. We haven't watched this cutscene yet. We haven't been here yet on this file. And on the first two files for Back in Time, I skipped this cutscene. And you know, you might be wondering, why am I not skipping it this time? And the reason is just that because we're going to be transferring keys to Dragon Roost Cavern, we're going to have to come through this area so many times that it just is not worth to skip this cutscene every time. So we're going to just watch it once, and then we have free access to this area. So yeah, we get the delivery bag from this, but that is not important. We do not need the delivery bag. Yeah, so off we go. There's still something unknown that we want to unload, and you guys probably have a bit of a guess as to what I want to unload, but you're probably wrong. I will say that. And using the leaf lets us enter DRC really easily. Instead of having to like get the bottle and blow up the rock, we can just leaf in. Okay, so you can see stuff is unloaded. You know, 2 of those statues were gone. And now I'm just going to be going back and forth between these 2 areas and, you know, pulling some more invisible bombs. And this was literally just trial and error. Like, literally when I tasked this, I just, like, held down on the control stick and spammed the bomb button until I got the result I wanted. Because I didn't know what else to do. But it worked in the end. We just have to walk back and forth through here quite a lot of times. Yeah, so someone in chat says, want to unload the locked door. Which would make sense. I have thought about this a lot. You know, that was one of my ideas, like, you know, can we unload the lock and then, you know, not have to spend a key? It doesn't work. A door being locked is like part of the door. Like, you can't just unload just the lock. Like, it will always be a locked door until you unlock it. Also, you can see we have those 4 keys. You know, that back in time did actually give us 4 keys. Alright, I think not too many more trips back and forth. So yeah, I think it's pretty clear that this is not optimal, but I will just say, this is not optimal. I was losing my mind testing this, so I was just happy to get it done. So actual loading is so awful. There are so many things which just like affect the memory that you can't control, and it makes it so painful to try and do any actual loading. I think it should just be a few more trips. It's very handy that pulling these invisible bombs doesn't actually take any bombs. I'll be honest, this is going on longer than I thought. Any second now, surely. There it is. Alright. Now, something's a little different. Don't know if you guys can tell. Alright, so we just spent our small key to open that door. So we're now down to 3 keys. And, oh, we're going back out. Okay. Cool. So we did a bunch of actual loading. We unloaded the HUD. Yeah. The heads-up display was gone. All of the stuff on screen, you know, your buttons, the mini-map and everything, your hearts, magic, that was all gone. It was just Link and the dungeon. And then we opened that door and we left. A bit weird, but okay. And then, importantly, we did a save warp, and that got rid of all of the actual loading. So we are now free from the actual loading. We can play the game as normal again. But yeah, that was a bit weird. I'll explain that later. I'm sure a lot of you probably have worked out what that is, but I will explain it later. But for now, I think it's time we beat some dungeons. We haven't beaten a single dungeon so far, and we are, what, like over an hour in? Yeah, hour 20. I think it's time we should do that. First we will place this pearl. And call Tingle again. Just got some stuff to take care of. Because when you save warp, it gets rid of Tingle, so... And also, we gotta change the wind. Okay, when I changed the wind here, I made a big mistake. So I set the wind north here. I should have set it northwest. That was my bad. I ended up having to play it again later, because I set it the wrong direction there. Alright, but now we're going to be going to Forbidden Woods. So, you know, you might think we're going to super swim to Forest Haven, you know, climb the inside, leaf across to Forbidden Woods, like you're intended. But I say we do something else. So this is a Tingle Balloon Super Swim. Remember, a Tingle Balloon lets you walk in the air for a few seconds. And when you're going fast, you can travel really far in a few seconds. So I ran all the way over here, pulled out my leaf, and now into Forbidden Woods we go. Alright. Now the thing about this dungeon is that having bombs basically breaks open the entire dungeon for a speedrunner. So all of these rooms, there's like some puzzle you're meant to do to unlock these doors and kill the door flower things. But if we have bombs, they are just not a problem at all. Now I say they're not a problem because, you know, I'm just throwing a bomb and killing them. But actually tassing these bomb slashes is really, really annoying. It's like my least favorite thing to do. It was just way more precise than it looks. Like, 'cause if you get too close to them, then the eyes close and you can't kill them anymore. So it's like really precise to kill them with one bomb. Anyway, I just got storage. We're going to be storing this chest. This chest does not have a key in it, this is just some rupees. But I would like chest storage. Alright, and I mentioned earlier, there is one key in this dungeon. One single key. So I guess it's about time that I talk about how we're gonna bring keys from one dungeon to another. So I mentioned that when you store an item, you don't receive that item until the next time you enter, or you load a new area. And that is true with small keys, but it's a little different in that you will only be given the item next time you load an area that can have small keys. So basically the keys are like in this weird limbo state until you enter another dungeon. So that means that you can transfer keys from one dungeon to another, even if you can't go from one dungeon to another in a single load. The game just kind of remembers that you have a key stored for as long as you want until you go into a different dungeon. So that chest I just stored had the small key inside it. So I now have that key stored, and it will not give me that key until I load an area that is I load a new area in a dungeon. Alright, and here I was actually running really low on bombs. I didn't realize how many bombs I had to use in this dungeon. So I should have pulled a bomb entering this room to skip a little animation, but I have no bombs left. Alright, and we never got the boss key, but that's okay, because we have chest storage. Alright, now I just loaded a new area, but for whatever reason, the boss room of a dungeon doesn't count as being inside a dungeon, because you see on the bottom right, it doesn't show the small key counter. So that small key is actually still stored. Alright, now this boss fight has some crazy task strats, but I was not prepared to do them. It looked too difficult. So I'm basically just going to be doing this the way we do in a speedrun, which is using some bombs. I did pull the bombs a bit earlier though, so I can take some damage as well. Alright, we are ready to beat our first dungeon. Alright, so leaving this dungeon with one small key stored. And then we got this post-dungeon cutscene. One of Twitch chat's favorite cutscenes. I think I will actually go to the toilet during this cutscene. BRB. Alright, I'm back. I hope you guys enjoyed the cutscene. Alright, so we're running a little low on stuff right now. We've got a quarter of a heart, 0 bombs. This ain't looking good for us. So we're just going to be dropping off that pearl we just got. And then our next stop is Dragon Roost Cavern. We're going to be actually beating the dungeon this time. Also, I hope you enjoyed that bomb RNG manip. I just got 5 bomb drops from that grass. Which took a long time. It was a lot of trial and error until I got good RNG for that. Yeah, I was doing that for like well over an hour. But it was definitely worth. This takes a lot of bombs. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to Dragon Roost Cavern, but first I'm going to be making a pit stop to this little island called Fire Mountain. So this is a pretty cool strat. So I just did a Tingle Balloon Super Swim into a zombie hover. And then I'm going to use Tingle to heal myself and fly straight into the fire. And now I'm in Fire Mountain. this was not really important for the route. I don't need to do this. I could have just come here later, like normal. But I just wanted to do something cool. Like, I think it is faster to do this now, but definitely not required. So in here is the power bracelets, which I will be needing, because I need to beat Earth Temple, and you need the power bracelets to defeat Jalhalla. Alright, now we're going to be going to Dragon's Cavern. And I'm going to be taking some damage on my way there. Alright, so I just got storage on there. I'm going to be using my storage to... well, you'll see in a second. So I'm going to Dragon's Cavern. I have storage. I'm going to be reading this sign. That gives me something called text cancel. So essentially, the next text box that appears, that set of text boxes will be cancelled. So like this guy has a bunch of text boxes, and it is about to skip a bunch of them. So that just skipped like half of this guy's text. Alright. Now you might be wondering why we didn't get this cutscene earlier. And that was because when I was doing actor unloading, it unloaded that cutscene, so I didn't get it the first time. But it wasn't enough actor unloading to unload this cutscene. So I have watched this one already. Alright, so we're gonna go enter Dragon's Cavern, and remember we still have that one small key. So we had 3 keys before. And now we're gonna be back up to 4. Alright, back up to 4, and... wait, what? We're at 5 keys? Hold up. How did that happen? Yeah, so, a lot of you probably realized, but when I did that actor unloading earlier, I unloaded the HUD. I was able to spend a small key, but because the HUD was unloaded, it never updated my key count. So I still had 4 keys. You couldn't see it because the HUD was gone, but that didn't use up a small key. And so I mentioned earlier the 2 keys that we couldn't get, and I said this was the one that we still couldn't get. So I've actually been lying to you guys this whole time. This is not a 15 keys lotad. This is actually a 16 keys lotad. We are getting all of the keys we could possibly hope to get. All 16, we're getting the 12 keys in game, plus 4 from back in time, and we're not losing any of them. Okay, so I know it's a bit mischievous of me to just lie to you this whole time. I have good reasons, I promise. I will explain in a second, because a lot is happening right now in this dungeon. So I just did a zombie hover, and then used a tingle bomb to blow up that warp pot, and then healed myself with a red potion. So that let me get up to this top floor, and also blow up that warp pot during the zombie hover. I also picked up another key in a chest on my way here, so I'm actually at 6 now. Alright, and I just barely missed this lava cycle, so I'm hopping around for way longer than I would like to. It's unfortunate. This cycle is like global throughout the whole dungeon, so if I played a little faster on some part of the dungeon, I could have made that, but I barely missed it. And also this is the part where I should have set the wind to northwest. Northwind, I thought Northwind was fine here for some reason. It isn't. It's not fine. So I just changed to northwest here. You see, even with northwest, it's quite hard to make this leafing, but with Northwind, it's like, it's just not possible as far as I could tell. So that was unfortunate. I had spent like a minute hopping and then had to change the wind as well. Not the best part of the Lotad. Alright, and I pull a bomb into this cutscene because it skips a little animation of Link turning around. Right, and then I want to get storage here. This lets me skip some mid-fight cutscenes. Alright, and this moblin, normally you do a quick spin to kill him. For some reason, I tasked this fight like 5 times, and every time I would desync as soon as I quick spin the moblin, so I ended up just doing normal slashes. I don't know why it was desyncing, but it was. Anyway, I've got the grapple. Alright, and then the boss room is just around here. And again, same as Forbidden Woods, and same as we'll see in some other dungeons as well. Chest storage just basically destroys boss doors. It's like they're not even there. And now we are in Goma. Goma is a pretty tame boss fight, not much goes on. So I will take this time to explain why I lied to you about 15 keys, 16 keys. And it's because you saw at the beginning, the very beginning of the Lotad, when I typed my file name, I typed 15 keys. That wasn't just me lying to you from the beginning. When I started this Lotad, I thought it was going to be 15 keys. But then, a little guy called EJ125, partway through making my Lotad, he discovered that outro loading to make 16 keys possible. So he made me redo a bunch of my Lotad. Can't believe he did this to me. I had to redo so much, but 16 keys is definitely better than 15, so I had to do it. But yeah, so just to reiterate, what I did was I did a bunch of outro loading. So much that the game couldn't even load the HUD, so, you know, the thing that shows your hearts, the magic, your items, the minimap, etc. All of that was gone. And doing that meant that I could unlock a door without the game updating the small key count, so I could use a key but also keep my key. So that solved the one small key that we had to spend. Luckily, that is the only locked door that that is an issue. All of the other locked doors in the game we can avoid very easily. They're not even a problem. Because if we had to do that outro loading multiple times, I would not want to do this. But doing it once is okay. So yeah, we're just killing this guy now. Alright, so let's just recap. We're at 6 keys right now. 4 from Back in Time. 1 transferred from Forbidden Woods, and then I also picked up one of the DRC keys. I still have 3 more keys in Dragon Roost Cavern that I haven't picked up yet. I will get those later, though. Alright, and we are done with this dungeon. And again, we need to beat this dungeon so we can enter Tower of the Gods. yeah, I am going to be getting the Dragon Roost Cavern keys at the end, because otherwise the end of the Lotad would just be entering the dungeon and then it says 16 and that's it. And it's not as exciting. Alright, and our next stop after this is just to go straight to Tower of the Gods. We're doing a bit of a dungeon rush right now. We did a whole bunch of setup, and then we're doing 3 dungeons, basically back to back to back. Alright. So yeah, not gonna waste any time. We're just going straight to that last triangle island, place the pearl, make our way into Tower of the Gods. Also get a bunch of magic, which is nice. On a lot of these islands, I'm doing this thing where I convert my speed to positive once I reach the island. And it just means I'm, instead of moving backwards, because when you super swim it's negative speed, you're going backwards. So I convert it to positive by doing some inputs. And it just makes it easier to traverse the islands. And we got another cutscene. We love cutscenes. This is one of the best cutscenes though. Yeah, Ocarina of Time has a similar category. I think 37 water temple keys. But you know, they kind of cheat. They just like write to their memory what value to put on the key counter. You know, we're actually putting in the work and collecting all of our keys. We're not just changing numbers in memory. Alright, here we got another King of Red Lions hallucination. He's not actually here. So yeah, no King of Red Lions, just gotta swim in here. Alright, Tower of the Gods. Now, this floor has this dungeon has this first floor with this water level. It's really annoying, so we're just gonna sneak on behind this waterfall, climb up, and goodbye floor 1. Do some hops. There is a zombie hover you can do in this room. which is a bit faster than taking these elevators, but I didn't feel like it. There is a small key on floor 1. Seems I've forgotten it. I guess we'll see what happens. So yeah, there are 2 keys in this dungeon. The first one is on floor 1, and then there's one on the way to the 3rd statue. Now, to beat this dungeon, we actually would need to spend a small key, so how are we going to get around that? Oh yeah, also I did this. Some side hops around this room. And then I activated a tingle balloon, so I can save a couple seconds. This dungeon was very much inspired from Trog's old any percent task. I pretty much just copied him, but did it worse. Yeah, I lied to you twice. This is actually 15 keys, but I just forgot to get that one in Tower of the Gods. Whoops. Nah, we'll get it. Just hang on a little bit. Alright, learning this song. This is important for later. We don't need to use it in this dungeon, but we do need it in Wind Temple. We need to use it exactly once, which is a bit annoying. Alright, then we got this statue. The first time I low-tadded this, like when I thought I was still doing 15 keys because I had to redo all this, I did the setup for this because I couldn't be bothered, but this time I actually put in some effort and did that setup list. The first time I went through Tower of the Gods, I really did not put in much effort, but I'm glad I went back and redid it all. Now we got this mini-boss. You can get 2 different types of parries. I'm pretty sure the other type of parry is faster than the one I just got, but for some reason I could not manip to get the other one. I don't know like when it's decided which one you'll get, but I could not get the other one. Oh yeah, also, instead of just opening the chest, I stored it. So I still got the bow, I just skipped the animation of watching the chest open. Now I have to avoid these bubbles. Easy. Alright, so we still got both keys in this dungeon to get. But we're not going to get them just yet. We are done in Tower of the Gods for now. We'll come back later. Alright, so what I wanted was to get the bow. That's really why I went into Tower of the Gods. Now, it might seem weird that I'm not getting the keys right now, but I actually couldn't get the keys on the same trick as I got the bow, because getting the bow meant loading a new area, because the mini-boss room counts as a different area. So if I tried to store the keys, I would have gotten the keys when I got the bow. And I couldn't get them after the bow because I have no way to go back through the waterfall on floor 1 So I have to do this in 2 trips, so I will just come back later. But for now, we're going to this island. This is Paw Print. Now Paw Print has some chests, it has a heart piece, but that's not what we want. This area also has very low memory. So I just did a bunch of arrow dupes, and that takes up a lot of memory. And you know what we can do when we take up a lot of memory? We can take up some more memory and do actor loading. So you thought we were done with actor loading. We're back. We're doing it again. Now this time I'm doing grappling hook pulls instead of bomb pulls, and the grappling hook takes up a lot more memory than bombs, so I'm done with those pulls a lot faster. But there is a lot more pulls to come. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's why we wanted the bow, so we can start actor loading. And now, last time we swam back and forth between Dragon Roost and Paw Print. This time we're just going to be staying on Dragon Roost. Actually, I have to do 1 reload, but after this, I'm just on Dragon Roost. And there is a bomb flower here. And the memory is low enough so that this bomb flower cannot be pulled. So when I try to pull this bomb, it cannot, you know, the game can't handle it, it just disappears. So that means I can attempt to pull this bomb every other frame. I'm just mashing A right now, and every other frame I'm trying to pull this bomb flower. And every time it is taking up a bit of memory. So this is a very fast way to eat up memory. I just pull this bomb flower every other frame until I have the low enough memory that I desire. So we're just going to be doing this, and then I'm going to be drowning to reload the area, and we're just going to be doing this a bunch of times. And this is what's going to allow us to get the final key, the other key that we couldn't get in 14 keys, the one that's going to let us get up to 16. And that is the coffin key in Earth Temple. And because we're going to be doing actor loading for a while, it gives me enough time to explain this, because this gets really complicated. So, earlier, when we were doing back in time, all the way back then, also, by the way, chopping that sign takes up some memory, so that's why I have to do that sometimes. So yeah, when we were doing back in time, I was storing those keys in Dragon Root's cabin. I mentioned that it was important that the final key we store was the one in the bird's nest outside. I didn't explain why, I just said that it was important that that was the last one we stored. So you'll remember that storing something from a chest, you will receive that item the next time you load a new area. Now with freestanding small keys, that is small keys that are not in a chest, they're just out in the open, that's not the case. When you store those keys, you will receive those keys even if you just load a different room of the dungeon. So, you know, you store a key, even if you just go through a door, you will receive that key. Then, so when we were doing back in time, that was why it was important that we stored that key last, because the bird's nest key was a freestanding key. So we had to store that one last so that we could do back in time immediately after, so we didn't have to load a new room, because if we went to a different room, we would receive the key and it would not be stored anymore. So, there's only one other freestanding small key in the whole game, and that is the one inside the coffin in Earth Temple. So the reason this is an issue is it means that if we want to transfer that key to another dungeon, it means we have to store the key and then somehow leave Earth Temple without loading a different room of Earth Temple. So we have to go from the coffin room to outside Earth Temple in a single load. Now that would be easy if the coffin room happened to be the first room of the dungeon or the last room, because then we could just leave normally. But it's not, it's like deep in the dungeon. So the way we're going to do this, the only way you can do that, is by death warping from Earth Temple to somewhere outside of Earth Temple. Now earlier, I was talking about save warping flags, and that also applies to death warps, they're the same thing. So, I mentioned that going inside King of Red Lions, that is the thing which fixes your save flags, and it makes it so that you will respawn where you expect. So this means that if we want to be able to death warp to outside of Earth Temple, it means we have to never fix our save flags. It means that we have to never enter King of Red Lions. So that's why we didn't beat Forsaken Fortress 1 earlier. Because we need to avoid entering King of Red Lions so that we can death warp from Earth Temple and transfer that one key. So let me just think about this. So that's why we avoid King of Red Lions. Now, well, let me take 1 minute to think about how I want to explain this. Okay, so entering King of Red Lions fixes your save warp flags, but there is actually one other thing in the game which will fix your save warp flags, and that other thing is the cutscene of going to Hyrule 2, the cutscene that is in the Courtyard of Hyrule. So that is after you beat Forsaken Fortress 2, you do Helm Rock King, and then you have the Ganondorf cutscene, and then you have the cutscene at Tower of the Gods, and then you go down to Hyrule, and you have the cutscene with like Link and Tetra in the boat. That cutscene outside of Hyrule Castle will also fix your save flags. So not only do we have to avoid King of Red Lions, entering King of Red Lions, we also have to avoid that cutscene in Hyrule 2. So we have to get to the coffin room in Earth Temple without watching that cutscene or entering King of Red Lions. So we have a trick called Early Earth Temple. It lets us enter Earth Temple with very few items. All we need is bombs, leaf, and a sword, and we get those really early. So I could go and enter Earth Temple right now if I wanted. So I can enter Earth Temple easily, and I can get through most of the rooms in Earth Temple with just those items and the Tingle Tuner. Most of Earth Temple is really not that hard to navigate with glitches. However, there's one single room that is a problem, and that is the second room in Earth Temple. It's a room where there's two switches. You need to press down both switches at the same time. There are two ways we know to do that. One is the intended strat by bringing Medley. The other is by using a frozen moblin. You use that guy to press down one switch, and you stand on the other one. So to get to the coffin room, we have to get past that room. So if we want to use Medley, the way we have to get Medley is you have to go through Hyrule 2. So that means we have to watch the cutscene go to Hyrule 2, so that's a no-go, we can't do that. So we are left with using a frozen moblin, which means we need the ice arrows. There are two ways to get ice arrows. The first one is to get them from Mother and Child Isles, like you're meant to. That also requires beating Hyrule 2, so that's also a no-go. The other way is to get light arrows from Ganon's Tower. So that means going to Hyrule. There are three ways to go to Hyrule. Hyrule 1 is from beating Tower of the Gods. We cannot beat Tower of the Gods because it requires using a small key. There is a trick called Tower of the Gods Skip, which lets you essentially beat Tower of the Gods in quotation marks without having to go through the dungeon. However, it requires fixing your save warp flags to do that. So we can't do that either, because that would just defeat the whole purpose. Then there's Hyrule 2, which is what we're trying to avoid, so we can't do that. And the other one is Hyrule 3, which requires a whole bunch of stuff, including getting the Triforce, which would require being inside King of Red Lions, that would also fix your save flags. So, essentially, there's no way to do it. It's not possible. We cannot get to the Coffin Room in Earth Temple without fixing save warp flags. So, this leaves us with one option, and that is, if we use actor unloading, we can unload that cutscene. And if you do that, it does not fix your save warp flags. And that is what we're doing right now. So we're gonna do so much actor unloading that the cutscene, the entire cutscene, fails to load, and we can just make our way to Hyrule 2 without fixing our save warp flags. The only issue with that is that that cutscene comes third in a chain of 3 cutscenes, which means it is incredibly difficult to stat up your memory in such a way that the first 2 cutscenes play perfectly fine, and the third one fails to load completely. That is incredibly difficult and precise, and took me weeks to figure out how to do it. So I want to give another huge shout out to Trog. Trog is before I did this, he was the only person who had ever successfully unloaded the cutscene. And he basically, he went through his old notes and helped me to do it, and I would not have done it without him. But yeah, after a lot of trying and testing, I got it to work, and here it is. We've still got a few more minutes of this actor loading. I'm gonna go refill my water bottle. Alright, I'm back. Just in time. Right, there was a question in chat earlier about why drowning makes me respawn at Dragon Roost instead of at Outset. Drowning is not the same as like save warping or death warping. And Dragon Roost has just like a really large radius around it where if you drown, it will respawn you there. Okay, I think this might be the last reload. I'm not completely sure. We're definitely almost at the end, I promise. Nope. Got another one still. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the last round now. Okay, I believe that should be it. Yeah. Alright, just got storage. And we are off. Also, you'll notice the game is not really laggy like it was the first time we did actual loading. That's because what caused the lag was doing the hundreds of bomb pulls at once, but we didn't need to do that this time. Right, we're going to Crescent Moon again to store this chest. This is just a really convenient chest to store whenever we need chest storage. Right, and we're going to Forsaken Fortress. So we're not doing anything we don't have to with this actor unloading. We are just going straight to what we need to do, which is Hyrule 2. We go to Hyrule 2 by going to Forsaken Fortress. And I'm actually swimming around the outside of the map this time, because that will avoid loading any quadrants that I don't need to load. Alright, and then chest storage lets us just completely destroy FF2. Just climb up the walls. Climb up here, the collision ends after a while. We are inside the door. And before we enter, I just need to do a few more grapple pulls. I promise it's not too many. These are the last grapple pulls in the entire run. Alright, no more grapple pulls. So there's normally a cutscene here, but yeah, not this time. The cutscene is gone. The water is still here though, which lets us do a super swim. Lets us climb this room real fast. And I had to break a pot there, because the memory is so low that the game cannot handle doing a loading zone. But breaking just one pot is enough to free up memory, so we can now do the loading zone. And we can go through here to watch some cutscenes. Hopefully not too many cutscenes though. So yeah, this is the first one. The memory is still very low. This cutscene is barely working, but it is working. And again, it's important that these first two cutscenes do work, because if they unloaded, we wouldn't be able to get to Hyrule. Like, the cutscenes have to actually play. If you unload them, then they don't take you to the next one. Right, and no, there was no reason that I did the pulls visibly outside the door. I just wanted you to be able to see them. You specifically, Beast, I wanted you to see them. Hey, look at the right side of the screen. Ganon's sword says fuck. Ha. Also, this cutscene gives you the Master Sword, which is pretty handy, considering we didn't go to Hyrule to get it the first time. This game has a weird thing where, like, if Link has a sword or a shield during a cutscene, it just gives it to him, even if he didn't have it before. So we now have the Master Sword and the Hero Shield. Alright, Ganon is dead. Alright, so now that Ganon's dead, we don't have to worry about saving the world. We can just focus on our keys. So we're not going to be beating Ganon. The run ends when we get 16 keys. We don't care about saving the world. Alright, so this is the second cutscene that has to load. So the one after this cutscene is the one, the culprit, that would fix our save flags if it loaded. However, because of all that outro loading we did, those weeks that I put into this section specifically, all of that time and energy, we will be able to unload this cutscene and continue. Alright, and here we go, and bam, no cutscene. So we're now just in Hyrule, and I'm going to do some stuff. So this is a bomb push clip. There is a tiny gap in that scene where we can just squeeze on through by dropping a bomb. And it lets us skip the interior of Hyrule Castle, which is both really cool, and also, if we were to go inside Hyrule Castle and come back out, there's a chance that the cutscene would play again, coming from the castle. So it's actually pretty important that we don't go inside the castle. So that was a bomb push clip, and we're gonna do it again, just squeeze on through the barrier. Those are very precise. I'm gonna be seeing a few more bomb push clips. Yeah, that barrier skip ended up being a lot faster than I expected to be able to get. The other bomb push clips I do later are nowhere near that fast. However, those ones are also way more precise. So yeah, we are, just to reiterate, our entire goal is to come here just to get the light arrows. That's all we need. The only thing that we came to Hyrule at all for is to get light arrows. Because that will give us ice arrows, which lets us get through Earth Temple. No, the damage barrier was not unloaded. I did a thing where I brake slid. I did a brake slide into the barrier at the same time as pulling Wind Waker. And I don't know why, but that lets you do the knockback cancel without actually getting hit a single time. And then this is Trial Skip. It's a nice little roll clip. Alright. And by the way, we still have actor loading active. It is still, the memory is still very low. I don't know if you noticed, but in the trial skip room, or just the trials room, there's normally 4 bridges, and only one of those bridges was actually loaded. The rest of them were gone. That was actor loading. Also, I had the perfect amount of magic here, which I thought was pretty cool. And while I'm here, there is this room off to the left, which has a bunch of supplies in, which will be pretty handy. Get to get a bunch of rupees to buy Tingle Tuna stuff, refill my magic, bombs, etc. And we can get the light arrows. All of that actor loading just to get this item to get through one room in Earth Temple by pressing one switch. However, we got it. And we're now save warping, which means that actor loading is gone. And again, the whole point of that was to not fix save flags, so we're going back to outset. Alright, so I've been talking a lot about this Earth Temple key. How about we go and actually get this key? The 15th key, or I guess the 16th key. Been talking about it a lot. Alright, now you may be thinking, I don't have Medley, I don't have the song, how am I going to enter Earth Temple? Well, there's a nice little bomb push clip we can do here. I mentioned this earlier, so it's not really a surprise, I guess. But yeah, this is a cool trick. We can just squeeze our way into Earth Temple. Alright, now I know there's been a lot of like actor loading and doing back in time twice. The run has not been progressing super fast, but from here to the end, it is pretty fast paced. Alright, so just calling Tingle again. He will be very useful, particularly in this dungeon. So here's our friend. We don't have a name for this guy, we should come up with one. But he is going to aid us in getting past this room. So this is the room where we need ice arrows. to freeze this guy. Place him on this switch. Do some leafing. And we can just barely hit the other switch before he unfreezes. And then I'm going to be taking some damage. So we're in this dungeon. We don't have medley, and we don't have a mirror shield. So we have no way to reflect light, which is kind of the main gimmick of this dungeon. So actually getting through this is a bit tricky right now. We're gonna need to get a mirror shield. So that's our goal. The first thing we're trying to do. So I just got storage and I stored opening that door and then I opened the other door. So what that did is that tried to load both those rooms at the same time, but it didn't really know where to put Link, so it put him in between those two doors. But the room I was just in unloaded, so it let me fall out of bounds. So now I'm in the basement. And now, there is something in this room that is very useful to me. That is a tingled chest. So we really want chest storage, and this is actually the only chest in the dungeon that we can access without any way to reflect light. So use a tingle bomb to make this chest appear. And I opened it at the same time as closing a text box, which let me store the chest without everything going black. So now I have chest storage, and I actually don't want to be in the basement. I want to be at the top. So I'm going to have to go back up using a zombie hover. So it looks like we're kind of stuck in this room, but we can just squeeze on through this little gap here using the door frame. Use our tingle tuner to heal ourselves and leaf back in bounds. And then we're actually going to have to do another zombie hover pretty much immediately after, so I'm going to be damaging down again as I climb up this statue. And again, our goal right now is to pick up the mirror shield. And just so happens that we can zombie hover clip out here as well, and we have direct access to the mini-boss room from here. There it is, you can see the floor over there. The loading zone is just off to the left. And normally you have to spend a key to get in here, so pretty cool that we can just get in here without. And then I do some leafing and use a tingle bomb to boost myself up there. And we get the mirror shield. Now, the coffin room key is actually just outside the mini-boss, so we're not going to be save warping to leave here, we're just going to be leaving normally. And I said this was a locked door, but because this is actually a different, different map, the door is only counted as a locked door on one side, so we can just leave without needing a key. And this is the coffin room, with that freestanding small key which caused us so many issues in this coffin. There it is, got storage, stored it, and now we're going to death warp. And this guy does damage pretty fast. It's a pretty quick way to death warp. Link is very tasty today. Alright. And we only stored this key. That was the only key we got. There are 3 keys in this dungeon. We're going to be doing 2 trips. This one, this time we're just getting that key. So, because we never fixed our save flags, we use that death warp to leave Earth Temple without loading a different room. So that means we still have that key stored. The key that caused us so much trouble is now in our pockets, ready to be taken to Dragon Roost. But before we go to Dragon Roost, we got some stuff to do. So we're actually going back to Forsaken Fortress right now. Because we need to get the Skull Hammer. Now, you might be thinking, why did I not just get the Skull Hammer when I was here earlier? But actually, you cannot defeat Phantom Ganon unless you have the Master Sword. You need to have the Master Sword to kill him. And I didn't have the Master Sword before. I got the Master Sword by watching the cutscene after FF2. So now that I've done that, I can actually defeat this guy. And take some damage at the same time. Yeah, the music is messed up because we super swam here. Alright, so Phantom Ganon is gone. Do a nice little one-frame backflip there. And then my next stop is Gale to get the Wind God's Aria. So I'm going to store that chest and then clip through this wall. So I'm now super swimming. You can't really see, but you can see on the mini-map and the lights show a little bit. Now I want to clip into Gale without using the Skull Hammer, because normally there's this wind thing in the way that blocks you from entering. But I don't want to break that because that's slow, so I'm going to actually swim past Gale to load the next island, and then I can swim back to Gale, and Gale is still in the middle of loading, so I can swim inside without having to break the stone. I don't know if that ended up actually being faster, because, like, I have the Skull Hammer. Breaking the stone would not take that long. And actually the first time I went through this, I did break the stone, and then I realized it was an extra equip, and that made me sad, so I undid it. Alright, now we learn this song. This song is important because we need this to get Makar for Wind Temple. Now Earth Temple we can get through without Medley, but Wind Temple it is not possible to get through without Makar. Having this rock here does give me a bit of a speed boost leaving the island though, which is nice. Alright, and we are now going to Dragon Roost Cavern to drop off our small key. So remember, when we store a small key, it is given to the next dungeon that we enter. So that means every time we store some small keys from a dungeon, we have to come back to Dragon Roost Cavern to drop off the key before we can go to the next dungeon. So we are going to have to make a lot of trips back here. Alright, and so this gives my key to Dragon Roost Cavern. I died at the same time as entering, so you never actually saw the key count, but I do have 7 keys now. you will see the key count next time I enter. Alright, and we have unfinished business in Earth Temple, so we're going to just go back there now. This time actually beat the dungeon. Beating Earth Temple is required to get Makar for Wind Temple. I'm gonna do this clip again. Alright, and we've already done this room. And we have the mirror shield, so that is going to help a lot getting through this dungeon. And here we see the entire reason that I needed the skull hammer. I need to use it exactly once in this room. Let's reflect some light. I need to hit that switch as the single required use of the skull hammer, because there is a small key in this room. Alright, get storage again. Alright, we have one key stored. And we also have chest storage now, which will help us greatly in getting through this dungeon. Because it lets us just clip through everything, pretty much. We're just gonna do a bunch of roll clips, ledge clips. Right, and then the last key in the dungeon is in this room. And that floor master threw a skull at me, and that skull had a bomb drop in it, which gave me 20 bombs, I think. So, thank you, Skullmaster. Well, Skullmaster, Floor Master. I mean, I guess he is the Skullmaster as well. Gave me 20 bombs. So when I got to that point, I was like, man, I'm kind of low on bombs. I need to get some bombs in this room, and then he just gave them to me for free. Alright, so we've stored 2 keys. Remember, we already got the 3rd key. So, just gotta beat the dungeon now. And then we still have chest storage, and we can very easily and very quickly skip the boss key with this. Just flip through the wall. This is Jalhalla. So Jalhalla is made of 15 pose, and every time you defeat 5 of them, it does another cycle. And if you kill 6 pose on 1 frame, it's possible to get a 2 cycle instead of a 3 cycle. But I didn't do that because it's really hard. Sorry. If you want to see it, you should watch the old 80% test. It's really cool. I will be doing storage though. So I just got storage on that spike, which lets me move around during these cutscenes. Right, and this is why I needed the power bracelets to pick up Jalhalla. Alright. So, just a normal free cycle, but I say that was pretty fast. And the nice thing about having storage, because it not only lets me enter the warp faster, it also lets me take damage during this cutscene, which is very handy. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed my shield movement. I discovered that while tassing this. It's my new favorite form of movement. Yeah, Medley has cloaked into Earth Temple. Alright, so same as Forbidden Woods earlier, the boss room does not count as a dungeon, so we still have 2 small keys stored. We can take them to Dragon Roost. And again, beating the dungeon is required to get Makar, which is what we'll be doing after this. On our way to Dragon Roost, we'll pick up Makar. So after this, once we get back to Dragon Roost, we will be at 9 small keys. We'll be over halfway, but I promise you we are much more than halfway through the Lotad. Alright, so just super swimming to Makar in Forest Haven. I'm going to do a Wind Waker dive from Beetle, so I'm now under the island. I can do a mini super swim and clip up into the waterfall area. It's a little faster. And here's Makar. Right. We are off to Dragon Roost again. Got some keys to drop off. Alright, and this is why I set the wind north the first time, because north is a better wind direction for this, and we enter here so many times. That's why I thought north would be good, but it has to be northwest. Alright, and we had 9 keys. Could only see it for a second. I actually didn't see it, so I hope I'm correct. It should have been 9. And this time we're actually just leaving the normal way instead of death warping. Because we want to go to Wind Temple, and Dragon Roost is much closer to Wind Temple than Outset. And it also means we get to stay damage down, which is going to be important in a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to get storage here. Do a sick flip into the water. And I'm going to Gale again. Now Gale, I still haven't broken the stone at Gale with the wind. And there's also a cutscene at Gale now. Now I need to watch the cutscene for Makar to spawn inside. But I don't want to watch the cutscene, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bunch of speed, so I can clip past the stone again. And I'm going to watch the cutscene with storage at the same time as entering the loading zone. And now Makar is in here with me. Now I could just play the song and enter normally, but that's pretty slow. Let's do something else instead. So here's the same clip as early Earth Temple, but for Wind Temple. So we can actually enter Wind Temple early, the exact same way. But we're going to do this, because we need Makar. So right now I'm stood on a really tiny seam between the wall, so that I was not clipped in bounds again. And it let me pick up Makar through the wall and take him into Wind Temple. Because that's actually all you need to have Makar in Wind Temple, is you need Makar to fall into that hole. So that was early Wind Temple, in quotes. And now I'm going to blow up Makar. This is called Makar Damage Interrupt. And it gives him a bunch of speed, and it lets me throw him all the way over here. And I can use a Tingle Balloon to get over here myself. So that skips using Command Melody in this room. Now we are making our way through here. And we've got to plant some trees to get through this room. I think I said earlier that I only need to play Command Melody once. I lied, it's actually twice. But, whoops. Nope, just twice here. If you're thinking of 14 keys EJ, then you're correct, but this is not the route you're familiar with. Alright, and Makar is now dead. We'll never see him again. Alright, so we have low health, and that means we want to do a zombie hover. So there is a key up here. So how do we get up here? We just fly. And, of course, we use Tingle to heal ourselves. We're now up here.
Oh.
Alright. And then in this room, I'm going to use a Tingle Bomb to kill that center Armus above us. And, you know, it didn't look like much, but I have no idea why, but killing that Armus with the Tingle Bomb was like the most precise thing in the entire run. I don't know why it took me so long to do that. I have no idea like what causes it to work or not work, but almost every time I tried to blow him up, it didn't work. I don't get it, but I got it in the end. Anyway, so I stored that small key. Now I'm coming down here. I'm gonna use another Tingle Bomb to let myself fall down here quickly. And now I'm at the other small key room. So that went pretty fast, but when you have chest storage, you can clip through the door frames in this dungeon very easily. So I just stored the second small key chest in this dungeon, and that is all of the keys in this dungeon. There's only those two. And then I death warp. And of course, as always, my save warp flags have not been fixed, so I can just leave the dungeon. And I don't need the hookshot or anything. Didn't even need iron boots. I just needed Makar. And then he went away forever. Alright, so that was Wind Temple. Got another 2 keys under our belt. Of course, we gotta take them to Dragon Roost. Also, look at this. Hello, Cyclops. Goodbye, Cyclops. That was by accident. I did that super swim, and then I just happened to go past Cyclops, so I stalled a little bit to show him off for a few more frames. But there he was. I've had that happen in runs a few times by accident, and he's just kind of chilling. Alright, now Wind Temple is the last dungeon that has keys, so you might be wondering, I mean, we have 9 keys right now, we're about to get 2 more. So that's 15. No, it's not. That's 11, and there's 3 more in the dungeon. That only gives us a total of 14, so where are the other 2 from? Well, we never went back to Tower of the Gods. So that's what we're doing now. And this time, instead of death warping, I save warped, because the reason I would always death warp instead of save warping is because I need Tingle, but I don't actually need Tingle anymore. So no more Tingle Tuner. So we're now at 11 keys. We got 2 more in Tower of the Gods. As I said, we'd come back later. I didn't forget. Alright. We're building up some speed. We're gonna do something crazy. I just needed to kill time while I waited for the water level. Alright, now we can go over here and do a nice little roll clip to get to this area. So this is the room with the first small key in floor 1. Gotta light these 2 torches on fire. Normally you use a stick, bring some fire over, it's really annoying, but just use some fire arrows. Alright, first small key. Gonna take some damage on the way. And then we can climb up this pillar, do a couple roll clips, get out of bounds, make our way back over here, do a mini super swim, clip up onto here, can climb up this pillar in the same way, do floor 1 skip, alright, so this is more like the traditional floor 1 skip instead of the super swim one I did earlier. I couldn't do the super swim one this time because you can't climb the ledge with chest storage. And then I have to wait for these elevators, so taking some damage on the way. I'm running very low on bombs. Yeah, double magic was really handy, especially in this dungeon. Tower of the Gods took up so much magic. In Tower of the Gods and also the early Earth Temple clips and early Wind Temple, I just needed so much magic. It was definitely worth to get double magic. Anyway, this is the other small key. Store it and immediately rip Link. Alright, so those are the final 2 keys that we need to transfer to Dragon Roost. So we've got 2 keys, we're at 11 currently, it'll be 13, and then we have 3 more to collect in Dragon Roost. And then we'll have 16 keys. Just one final super swim from here to Dragon Roost. It's a lot of long super swims at the end, but there's not much we can do about it. We have to death warp instead of save warping, because if you save warp, your stored keys will disappear. It has to be a death warp, because I'm not exactly sure why, but just something about going to the title screen will get rid of your stored keys, even though the title screen isn't a dungeon. I don't really know why. Stored keys just don't like the title screen. Alright, we've been through this island many, many times. This is the last one. And I've got some cool stuff to do in DLC still. Alright, so we should be at 13 keys. There we go, got 3 more keys to get. The first one is in this very first room, the very first key in the entire game. We still haven't gotten. Gonna use our fire arrows again. And we don't have to store these ones because we're just collecting the keys for this dungeon, so we can just get these normally. Alright, 14. Alright, 2 more keys. And remember, way earlier, we opened this warp pot with a bomb. That's why, so we could get back here quickly. Pull a bomb to skip a little animation and blow up this. That was my final bomb. 0 bombs left. And you see this door has a lock. You can actually open locked doors from behind without using a key, which is very handy. It means we can actually do this. Alright, so we're at 15, and this is the final key. Shoot a fire arrow, and then leave during the cutscene. Open this chest, and we have 16 keys, and time ends right now. That is Wind Waker, 16 keys. Lotad. We did not know 16 keys was possible when I started making this. And, yeah. I put about 4 months of work into this, and I think it came out pretty good. And then at the end here, I'm just going to show off some stuff. Just a couple minutes of random stuff to do at the end. But, yeah, that's 16 keys. A lot of cool glitches. Pretty much, like, all of the glitches in the game put to good use in this category. Now, we've done a lot of storage things, but what happens if you open a locked door with storage? Goodbye, 16 keys. It was good while it lasted.
Oh no.
Alright, and we did back in time earlier. There's actually another way to do back in time. If you void out at the same time as resetting, you can do back in time like this. And now we're on outset. And I'm gonna come down here and open a door. When you open a door, it makes the screen fade to black, and if you go to the title screen, it stays fading to black. So now I have the black title screen. And now I fix my file name. 16 keys. Alright. That is it. I hope you all enjoyed.
Alright, thank you so much, Minnie, for letting us show that off, and for all your hard work doing that. That was super, super, super cool. Before we head off, where can people find you?
Yeah, Twitch, I stream. I'm doing 100% runs right now, trying to get world record. I'm trying to improve world record.
Yes, don't be modest about that.
But yeah, again, I just want to... 3 people I really want to shout out. Aza helped me with actor loading stuff, and also just looked at the route to make sure it was good. EJ for discovering how to make 16 keys possible, and Trog for helping me with the courtyard cutscene skip. Yeah, I think that's everything.
Alright.
Just thank you for letting me host it here. I know I had a lot of like special requests, so thank you for letting me do everything.
I'm more than happy that you did do that for us. But yes, that has been the 10th event horizon of Redux and Friends. We hope to keep this going on for the future, some small showcases from the community. That's going to be it for us today, but make sure to follow the channel to keep updated on when new events come out. And Sub-Zero is planning to be done in December. We'll see how that actually goes, but that is our plan for at least the current moment. So thanks again for watching, and we will see you all very soon.